Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. A lot to talk about on today's show. A lot of really exciting news. Again, just a great offseason for the Dolphins. Just continues to get better and better and better. I said this probably last time, but this is definitely, as you know, I've been covering this team for over 4 years now. And on this channel, and this is by far the best offseason I've ever done while doing these podcasts. So it's really not even close, and I don't know, it's really exciting. So let's get with some offseason news that is phenomenal, and I'm very, very happy the Dolphins got this deal done. The Miami Dolphins have signed Melvin Ingram, former Pro Bowler, to a one-year deal that will count for around $3 million against the cap, in case you guys were wondering. It could be up to $5 million with incentives, but it does only cost $3 million against the cap, which is an absolute steal, which makes me wonder what his market was, which is very odd, because if you look at his time in Pittsburgh, which I think he kind of gets hate for, he actually put up really good numbers. He was second on the team in pressures, and he was really good. I think he was like tied or like barely below TJ Watt in quarterback hits. If you guys want to fact check that, but he actually was having a good run with the Steelers. He wasn't playing bad. He actually was playing pretty well. And then they obviously ended up trading him because of the dispute between him and Mike Tomlin. He goes to Kansas City, murders it, had a really good playoff run, and had a really nice regular season too, especially against the Broncos. I think the thing that this does for this Dolphins team, number one, veteran leadership, which I know people are rolling their eyes right now because it's... But I want to define it. What Kyle Van Noy did for this defense was not just his play on the field. It was... I really do feel like he had an effect on the locker room. And it just added experience to the defense. It added knowledge to the defense, like a veteran would. And I think that's what Melvin Ingram's going to add to this team, which is, I think, a really, really nice touch. I think this team needed a nice veteran player on it, and Melvin Ingram it can definitely provide that. And the other thing in terms of what he can do on the field to affect the game, he's a fantastic run defender. And, you know, you can't get enough of those, especially getting teams into third down on a more consistent basis for the defense to match them up against a really good defensive front. We have a lot of really good blitzers on this team with Tyndale, Baker, even Landon's a fantastic blitzer. Even Melvin Ingram, you can move him around and do some crazy stuff with him on third down. So it gets teams into more third downs, provides more opportunities for this fantastic secondary and this fantastic front seven to really wreak havoc, which, again, to get someone like that for $3 million is pretty amazing. And his pass rush ability isn't terrible. I think that's probably the part of his game that has weakened the most over the years, but he's still pretty good at it. He's not bad at it at all, but he's not prime Melvin Ingram, that's for sure. But he's still a above average run defender. I want to make that clear. Like I think he can really make an impact there. Now, formationally, in terms of personnel, Melvin Ingram, known for being very, very versatile. He's a very versatile player. So whether we want to use him in exotic blitz packages, like I just mentioned, on the edge, even inside on third down, you can do all of that. Play him at middle linebacker. He can do a lot of different things to help your defense. And he's a fantastic... when he plays middle linebacker, he's really good at it, especially on rundowns. So this allows Jerome Baker to play on the line of scrimmage a little bit more if they want him to. You can move Melvin Ingram more off the ball if you wanted to. This gets Van Ginkel out of that Kyle Van Noy role, which he struggled mightily in. Van Ginkel's a fantastic pass rusher, but he's very bad in space and off the ball. So Melvin Ingram replacing that, I think, is the biggest difference that you guys are going to see. And I would not be surprised. It depends on how Channing's development goes. But I could see Melvin Ingram taking significant snaps I wouldn't say significant because we have so many players on this defense. The depth on this front seven is ridiculous. But I feel like Melvin Ingram will make a substantial impact on this team, and I think this is a fantastic signing for all the reasons I just mentioned. I think the main thing it's going to help is the run defense. It's a killer rotation the Dolphins have, and you want to talk about chess pieces that Josh Boyer will have to play with. I mean, it's one of the more versatile, if not the most versatile defense in the National Football League. Not to mention the fact that in the interior, they're really good as well. So it's really nice. I'm really excited to see what Channing does in this defense, especially with the addition of Melvin Ingram. And the way Josh described how they want to use Channing as more of a quarterback spy to really, more of a blitzer, make the game as simple as possible for him. All of this stuff is building up to a really good Dolphins defense, and it makes me really, really, really excited. Fantastic signing by Chris Grier. And I wanted to clarify something, and I know if you're a first-time listener, you don't want to listen to this, but I will make this very quick. I said last week that credit to Mike McDaniel for getting all these running backs. What I meant by that was Chris is a guy who definitely understands what the head coaches that he GMs for want, and he goes after it. Clearly. Different philosophies. It's even more clear in this offseason versus any Brian Flores offseason. If it wasn't for Mike McDaniel, those running backs would not be here. Especially even Raheem Mostert, who said that. Mike McDaniel was pounding the table for Raheem Mostert. So that's what I meant by that. But yeah, Chris Grier has done a fantastic. He had a really good draft. The Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Waddle draft is phenomenal, and he's following that up with a great offseason and a pretty solid draft. I think he got two really good players out of this most recent draft, in Skylar Thompson and Channing, who I think is going to be a really good pro. And I want to move on to that. I just wanted to give props to Chris because he has done a good job. And with the offensive line, people forget we have Connor Williams now and Teron Armstead, which were two fantastic signings. I actually really like Connor Williams. I think he's a good player. So, which leads us into some interesting news about some of the rookie players that I wanted to talk about who are shining so far in Miami Dolphins OTAs. So, if you're not familiar with this and you're not following too deep, whoever is the MVP of each OTA practice gets an orange jersey. So they're the most valuable player or the best player of that practice. And thanks to the Finsider.com, we know each player who has won the orange jersey so far. And I'm sure most of you guys already know this, but I wanted to go over it anyway. So who was the MVP of the first practice was Jalen Phillips, which is really nice because the end of last year for Jalen Phillips was phenomenal, and it's nice to see that he's keeping that going. The winner of the second practice in OTAs was Tua, which is phenomenal. He's so far from even the defensive players and offensive players have been really surprised with the offense. And the winner of the MVP of the third OTA practice, was Zach Sealer, who, in my opinion, is the most underrated defensive tackle in the National Football League and the most underrated Dolphin. One of my favorite players of the last few years to play for the Dolphins. Zach Sealer, one of my really kind of going up my list. If he can keep this going, he's just a great player. I really like Zach Sealer. For the fourth winner of practice is Christian Wilkins in OTAs, which is great, and those two have been a great tandem for a long time. It's kind of hard to grade the fronts in OTAs, especially since Teron Armstead isn't there. So, in terms of the offensive line, so I wouldn't look at this too hard if you're worried. Oh man, is the offensive line struggling with back-to-back? Or actually, 3 out of the 4 guys who have won MVPs in practice are defensive linemen. I wouldn't worry about that. I would only worry about that when it comes to training camp for sure, and preseason. I think is when you get to see it with your own eyes. So I'm gonna start. I was talking about Skylar Thompson earlier, and I want to get into this a little bit because I think it's really interesting. So this details one of the OTA practices. Tua in this latest practice was sick. He did not feel good, according to other beat writers of the Miami Dolphins. So Skylar Thompson and Teddy Bridgewater got obviously the majority of the snaps. So this is how they did. So let's start with Teddy Bridgewater because it's the least interesting. Bridgewater, again, this is from Sports Illustrated. This report comes from Sports Illustrated. Bridgewater attempted a few deep passes during team drills, but was not able to connect when trying to hook up with Tyreek Hill. I am not a Bridgewater guy. I think Teddy Bridgewater is not a very good quarterback. I watched him a full season in Carolina because my brother is a Panthers fan. So I watched a lot of those Panthers games, and he was pretty bad. And, yeah, his Denver stuff wasn't great either. I'm just not a huge Teddy Bridgewater guy. So that doesn't really surprise me, but this is what's interesting. So Skylar Thompson, according to this Sports Illustrated summary of the practice, Thompson had his share of impressive throws in team drills, notably a nice hookup with Jalen Waddle over the middle, a 60-yard touchdown to Braylon Sanders with an accurate throw some 40 or 50 yards downfield under pressure. And lastly, a nice throw over the middle to the tight end Mike Gesicki in the final team drills practice. Here's the thing about Skylar Thompson that I want to get across here. He is physically a very talented quarterback. I actually really like the way he throws the football too. He is a really good prospect for the Dolphins. Like a really, really, really good one. He's big, he's athletic, and he has a strong arm. And he's accurate. Like in college, he was accurate. And he won a lot of big games that he was not favored in. How much you want to stack that up against the things is up to you. He just didn't have a ton of production in college at all. Like at Kansas State, he just was not very productive. He dealt with a lot of injuries, obviously, and that's kind of, I think, hurt his draft stock. But when you compare him to some of the other, like I watched a lot of his stuff, Skylar's, and it's not a surprise to me that he's doing well in practices. It really doesn't surprise me. He has a lot of talent. He could actually be something. I'm not saying he will be something or anything like that, but he definitely has the potential to be. I could easily see him lighting up preseason with this roster, which makes me really excited. I'm very excited to watch him play in preseason, like very, very excited. He has a lot of high-end ability if he can ever get there. He played the quarterback position a lot in college. He has a great feel for the game as well. And again, physically, he has every tool you would really need. And he played within the pocket in college. It wasn't like he was running around all the time. I really like Skylar Thompson, is basically what I'm saying. It's nice to see that he's having good practices. While under pressure, throwing a 50-yard throw down the field that ended up being a touchdown, that's not easy, especially for a rookie who was drafted in, I believe, the 7th round. So the fact that he's outplaying Teddy Bridgewater in an NFL OTA practice is pretty impressive. So I just wanted to bring that up. I like him. I like his game. I'm very interested to see how he continues to kind of progress. So this is the last thing we're going to talk about on today. And again, did I even mention the fact that I don't know? I might have spaced out the information about Melvin Ingram from Pro Football Rumors. I like to say where I'm getting this information from because otherwise it just sounds like I'm getting this out of nowhere. Obviously, the last report the summary of OTAs was from Sports Illustrated, and yeah, so there you go. In case I didn't say that, I don't know. It's just gonna bother me if I didn't mention it. So I want to talk about Tua. There's been a lot of, before we get into fan questions, there's been a lot of he's had a great offseason. And this is a new coaching staff, a really talented coaching staff, by the way, very talented, that he's impressing. I love the positive vibes. And I want to say this before I continue. I am a part of the fan mind that it's like none of this really matters until like training camp or not even training camp, preseason. It's hard to kind of buy into the hype sometimes, but this is a positive thing that I want to take away from this. So far this offseason, and we've seen Tannehill, I'm talking about in recent memory since I've been doing this podcast, Tannehill, Cutler, who else was a major quarterback, I guess, a starting quarterback, Tannehill, Cutler, and obviously now Tua. I have never read this much positivity about a quarterback, not only from his teammates that are on offense and defense, but the coaching staff too has been it's just positive, and I think that's good. Whether it's exaggeration or propaganda, whatever the heck you want to, whatever you believe it is, I think it's real, obviously, but at the very least, there's a belief, there's a positivity around him, which he did not have his first 2 years, and it was really, really bad his first 2 years. In terms of all the off-the-field stuff, in the locker room stuff wasn't great either. The way Brian Flores handled the offense, the way he built it, it just wasn't good. And it's nice I think it's just nice to have an offseason like this for him. And it's I think it's a good thing in the end. And I do believe that Tua is having a great offseason. I don't think it's overhyped. And the reason I say that, it's not coming from the writers, which I think is a good thing. Because a lot of these guys, you would think beat writers would be a little bit less biased, I guess, and not have as much attachment, but they have been wrong a lot in the last few off seasons. So it's nice to hear, and it's not common, especially in Dolphins history, and I would know, it's literally documented on this channel. We went through every article of each off season, basically. Out of all of the off seasons that Tannehill had, the defense especially, and the other offensive players, never came out and spoke about him like this, ever. It never happened. So, I think that's definitely the biggest difference between, I would say, some of the hype that we've had in previous off seasons compared to this one. That's the biggest difference. Tannehill's teammates never really went out of their way to praise him, ever. There was that really awkward interview with Cameron Wake a few years ago where they asked him about Ryan. They asked Cameron Wake about Ryan Tannehill, and he just kind of laughed, which was, I remember that interview, and I was like, wow. So that kind of gives you the feel, the difference in, I guess, eras between the two. So yeah, I'm buying into it. I'm buying into to all this stuff. I think it's real. I don't think it's a spin or anything like that. Especially the article that came out where detailed that the defensive players were really, really happy with what they've seen from the improvement from the offense. So it's just a really good offseason, like I said, and I think it makes me happy as a Dolphins fan. It's nice to be happy as a Dolphins fan, for sure. It makes you really excited for the season and preseason, for sure, to see some of these young players. Alright, let's get into, there's not that much, I mean, I guess there is a lot of, I don't even know what I was going to say. I'm sorry, guys. It's the channel, it's not doing great. The quality of the videos obviously has gone down because of this mic. I think by the time next week, if I could figure out the problem, hopefully the mic will be fixed. And you know what? That is what it is. So let's get into the fan Q&A. This first question. Hold on, these pugs are out of control. Out of control. So let's get back to the fan Q&A. This first question comes from Steve, who says, with the amount of talent the team has going into the season, if they fail to get to the postseason, what do you think the consequences of that will be? If any, as far as firings, whether it's players, coaches, or the front office. It's a really good question, Steve. I think the repercussions of us having an unsuccessful season would be that I don't think Mike would be fired, and I don't know. I don't think they would fire Chris. I think they would fire, I think Tua would be the one to take the fall, honestly. I think everybody else would be safe except Tua. Because if Tua has a good season, then the team is going to make the playoffs. This next question comes from Steve. He says, I'm interested to hear your opinion on Channing Tindall. He says, do you think he'll start the season at some point, if not right away? And do you think he can make an impact right away? Yes, he will not start. I do think he will be in some sort of a situational rotation, if that makes any sense, or in a situational. I don't even know what the word I'm searching for right now, but it'll be situational. Whether it's depending on if we're playing an athletic quarterback, I'm sure he will be blitzing and spying a lot, but I don't think he'll play him in a linebacker. That will be in year 2. And he has a lot of really good players to learn from, like Elandon Roberts and even Jerome Baker and Melvin Ingram. This next question comes from TR3MC. He says, "Hey Skaggs, is making the playoffs a guarantee this year with the talent Miami has? And if not, why not? If they don't make the playoff, it will be because of the quarterback position. Their team is just too good. The coaching staff, by the way, is not getting talked about enough. The coaching staff is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. The amount of football intelligence on this coaching staff is astounding. It is everywhere you look. There's a coach that you'll like, and so yeah, like if it doesn't work out, it's because of the quarterback play was bad. And this brings up an interesting topic about the hate of Tua. And here's what I will say: there are definitely fair criticisms of his game that we've talked about before, but the thing that just frustrates the living heck out of me is, watching like quarterback rankings and the way that people do it, they consistently will bring up stuff around other quarterbacks that people may rank ahead of them, or even if they're criticizing Tua. Like, oh, this guy didn't have this, or oh, this guy didn't have that. Well, it's like, why does no one bring up what Tua didn't have? It's very odd. Obviously they're, I don't know. It's a very weird perception of it. He had the worst rated offensive line in the National Football League. He had Matt Collins and Devontae Parker as his other options other than Waddle, and Mike Gesicki was an actual ghost at the end of the year. So it just wasn't a talent. He had no run game until like a few games at the end of the year. Excuse me, and it wasn't very consistent in terms of some of those drives. He's had below average surroundings, whether it was injuries or just talent, really. And it's unfortunate. It sucks. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why people don't bring that up enough. It's not even. It's not like, oh well, Tua's had like, let's say, average surroundings. No, man, it's been below average. Like, I don't understand that kind of, I don't know, that mentality. It's very weird. So yeah, if to answer to finish the question from TR3MC, if the Dolphins don't make the playoffs, why would that be? It would be because of the quarterback position. But I think Tua is going to have a breakout season. This next question comes from KC Fanatic. He says, "Is center still a position in need if Dieter goes down? Who will fill in?" This is a great question. I have no idea. J.C. Tretter is obviously still out there. The Dolphins still have cap space. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. I think it would be a nice addition to the team, adding a veteran center who has been around the league and has played at a high level. Mike McDaniels has talked about playing Connor Williams at center, which he has done so far in OTAs. Just a little bit of a cross-training, so it's going to be interesting to see how that ends up working out. The Dolphins haven't had their full offensive line to work with yet because Teron Armstead has not practiced, because Mike McDaniel does not believe in working some of the veterans in OTAs, which I think is a smart thing to do. So we'll see. I don't know the answer to that. I'm trying to think who else would be a good center. I mean, Connor's fine. The thing I like about Connor too is he's played it before, and he's obviously been in the league a long time. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I think I'll have a better answer for you when we see the final depth chart. And I know that sounds kind of stupid, but there's just so many players that could play many different positions on this team. So it's hard to kind of know. But it's still a position of need. I would say the depth on the offensive line, at like tackle, I'm not too concerned about. Guard, I'm not even concerned about. I guess it really is center. Like the more I've said before that I am concerned about the depth of the offensive line, but the more you think about it, there's a lot of younger players, obviously, but a lot of developing talent there that could get better, especially in this scheme. So, I don't know. I guess it would be the center position would be the biggest cause of concern. I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've covered it. I don't think there's really anything else I really want to talk about when it pertains to the squad. I did one thing I will say. One thing that made me mad watching something, and honestly, I want to say this as well. ESPN is atrocious, and I'll just leave it at that. It's just not good. It's just not good sports casting or whatever. Like, it's just not good. It's really bad. And most of the things, even like on Fox and ESPN, are both like pretty bad. It's not great. But I was watching NFL Network, an NFL Network video, and someone said like they were like the Dolphins, and this was regarding the Bills, if the Dolphins can win the division. And I don't remember what show it was, but they were like, the Dolphins defense has to play better. And now the margin of victory, let's just take Brian Flores' tenure as an example. Now, barring the home game last year, most of the time and most of the games that we've played against Josh Allen have been close going into the late third, early fourth quarter. The reason the margin of victory has been so bad is because the offense is absolutely dominated by the Bills' defense every single time, whether it was Ryan Fitzpatrick or Tua. It just has been a very bad matchup for this team. That was the biggest difference. It has nothing to do with the defense. The defense is fine. They just can't. When you look at, here's a very telling stat. The opposing teams, especially early on in the year that the Dolphins played, had significantly more possessions than we did, and kept drives alive significantly longer. And the defense still, even on the win streak, still played at a high level. Okay? And that's why the defense was struggling early on in the year. Is because the offense was so bad that it made the defense worse than it actually was. That's real, ladies and gentlemen. If you give an NFL offense that many chances in today's game with the rules the way that they are, they're gonna score. Okay? And when you can't score over 17 points on a consistent basis, you're gonna lose. Okay? Now, the team, I don't know why I said okay that many times. The team, right, won 9 games and 10 games the last 2 years, especially last year, with a not good offense at all. So I feel like the narrative, like, my point being, this team is really good. The fact that this team and the defense, for a lot of the time, has carried this team to pretty much all the time in every game, carried this team to win 9 wins to 10 wins, for almost all the time. And with the improvements on offense, I just feel like the sky's the limit for this team, is basically what I'm saying. And if the offensive can just come together, this team can be really, really special, and it can compete with the Buffalo Bills in the division on a way more competitive level because of the improvements in the offense. So, can the Dolphins compete with the Bills? Absolutely. And they have competed with them. Now, the final score of some of those games has been great, but they definitely can beat them. And I just wanted to. There's something that agitated me a little bit. It's like the greatest weakness of the team, which I'm so happy with Chris. All they did was focus on the offense and getting it better. Has been at least on paper, okay. And I hate saying that because you haven't played any games yet. But combining that with a really, really, really good offensive coaching staff, which is significantly better than last year, with way better talent on the offensive side of football, and that was your biggest weakness as a team, it should add up to special things this upcoming season. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. You know one thing, I wish, like, when I watch some of these, like, some of these quarterback rankings are so bad that I wish, like, one day that I could just debate this with some of these people, because it's ridiculous. Some of these quarterback rankings are terrible. Anyway, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm not saying my opinion is better than anybody else's, but some of this stuff is ridiculous, okay? It's like, this is what happens when you get analysts who cover multiple sports, is they just say stupid stuff all the time. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I'll see you guys in the next one.